So the Union's strategy is actually going to be devised by a guy named General Winfield Scott. So if you remember that name, it is because we last saw him at the Mexican-American War. He was our general who finally conquered Mexico City at the end of the war and was able to close it out for us. So all of our top military generals on both sides in the Civil War, they will have, most of them pretty much will have also fought in the Mexican-American War, because that was the last war that we were in before the Civil War. So the North has several advantages, right? So the North has a larger population, so just automatically they're going to have a bigger army. They got more people to pull from. When the draft begins, they're going to have more people to draft from. So automatically having a bigger army, that's a pretty big advantage. Advantage number 2, 85% of all of our factories are in the North. So as far as manufacturing, creating weapons, ammunition, clothes, medical supplies, tents for troops, literally anything, any supplies that troops are going to need, it's going to be easier to make and produce those things in the North than it will be for the South. The South really only has one manufacturing city, and that's Atlanta. So pretty much every manufactured good that we get in the South, we got from the North or we got from Great Britain. So not being able to get them from the North is going to be a huge problem for the South. Now, Lincoln can't fight a war to end slavery. That's not what the Civil War is. Now, the South may secede because of slavery, but that is not why the Civil War is fought. The Civil War is not fought to end slavery. The Civil War is fought to preserve the Union. Now, why can't Lincoln say that he wants to fight a war to end slavery? Because no one will support that. You have to remember it's 1860 and everyone is a racist. No one's going to want to fight a whole war to help black people. It's just not going to happen. So even really in the North, there you might have plenty of people that don't like slavery, but not enough of them are even abolitionists. Not enough of them totally want slavery abolished, because they know that they're making money off of it as well. So Lincoln's entire thing here during the war, when it gets going, is going to be to preserve the Union, keep our country together. So General Winfield Scott's going to be the original commander of the Union armies, and he's going to develop the North's official strategy. So what he wants is to cut the South off from the rest of the world. They're already cut off from the North. He wants to cut them off from everyone else too. And the plan that he comes up with is going to be called the Anaconda Plan. If you've ever heard of it, this is the Anaconda Plan. So how does an anaconda kill its victims? An anaconda is a constrictor, so they wrap around their victims and squeeze them to death. And that's exactly what General Winfield Scott's plan is for the South. He wants to wrap around it like a snake and squeeze it to death. So that's going to have 2 parts to making that happen. Number 1, he's going to establish a Union blockade in the Atlantic. This is going to cut all of the ports off in the South from trading with anyone. They won't be able to import any of the goods they need. If they can't, that means that if they can't make it themselves, they just can't have it anymore. But number 2, this is also going to stop them from exporting cotton. Why is that a big deal? That's their number 1 source of income right now. And if they can't sell cotton to France and Great Britain, then they're going to start losing money very, very quickly. So that's part 1 of the plan. Part 2 is to take over the Mississippi River. This is why I said that Kentucky and Missouri are going to be so important, because the Ohio River gives us access to the Mississippi River, and then Missouri borders the Mississippi River. So to take over the Mississippi River, that will cut the South in half. Then they will have surrounded the deep South totally, and they will be able to like I said, start squeezing it until they can't take it anymore. They will start invading inland after that. So a really great plan. I'll go ahead and give you a spoiler. It's totally going to work. So there are some problems with this plan, though, especially in Lincoln's eyes. Number 1, this relies on the idea that there are going to be Southerners who will give up once they are surrounded. They think that once they have wrapped the snake around the South, that moving inland will be easy, and that it won't be hard to conquer city after city after city once they start moving in. That is very wrong. There are some people today who would probably fight the Civil War if it started happening again. And that was this was well over 100 years ago. There is 150 really. There's no way that they're going to find many people in the South willing to just give up once it looks like they might be losing. So that's going to be difficult. But problem number 2, which is the much bigger problem in the eyes of the North, with the Anaconda Plan, is that this is going to take a long time. This plan that Scott has worked out here is a long-term plan. It's going to take a long time to set up a good enough blockade in the Atlantic that no ship will be able to get through, and it's going to take a long time to take control of the Mississippi. And most Northerners want a short war. Remember I said Lincoln thought this whole thing was going to take 90 days. It's going to take a lot more than 90 days to put the Anaconda Plan into effect and then to see it work. So they sort of put this plan into effect, but this is really going to go on as their Plan B. And instead, Plan A for the North is going to be to send troops straight to Richmond. They think if we can conquer Richmond, that's the capital of the Confederacy, Richmond, Virginia, then the war will be over. So we're going to see over and over and over as the war is going on for the Union. They will constantly be trying to make it to Richmond. But while that's happening, they're also going to be putting the Anaconda Plan into effect. And a blockade is going to start in the Atlantic. And we'll see Union military like Ulysses S. Grant. They're going to be working on taking control of the Mississippi River. The Southern plan for the war is very different. Now, while the North's goal is to preserve the Union, the South's goal is literally to just be left alone. That is their only goal. That's why you might hear people in the South call this war the War of Northern Aggression. While a little bit silly, it's actually kind of true. The South did not secede to fight a war with the North. That is not what they wanted. That is not what the plan was. They knew that it might happen, but that's not what the goal was. The goal was to keep slavery protected in the South, and to do that they felt like they need to leave. Now they just literally wanted to be left alone. Had Lincoln never initiated the troop movements and had never had those troops invade the South, which he will do, that will be the first thing that those troops do. They will invade the South. Had that never happened, Civil War never would have gone on, and the South would have just gone on about their business with slavery. So they're fighting a defensive war. They don't have as many advantages as the North does. Like I said, they don't have as big of a military and they don't have as many supplies, but they do have the home field advantage. The overwhelming majority of the war will be fought in the South. Every single Confederate state will have Civil War battles take place there. We're even going to have battles take place as far out as like Colorado, all the way to Texas. We're going to have Civil War battles taking place all over, but the South is going to have a serious advantage there, just like the Patriots did during the American Revolution. The second advantage that the South has is that overwhelmingly the South's military generals and officers are better. I don't know how it happened, it just did. And for some reason, all of the top graduates from West Point around this time, and all of our sort of smartest strategists in terms of military and battle plans happened to be from the South. And we're going to have some incredible military minds coming out of the Confederacy for this war. People like Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, P.G.T. Beauregard, Joseph Johnston, lots of really big American military names are going to be coming for the Confederacy right now. So while the North has the Anaconda Plan and invading Richmond, the South's working on their strategy, which is going to be called cotton diplomacy, and it revolves around cotton. So the South thought that their biggest advantage was their trade relationship with Great Britain and France, revolving around cotton. Now, cotton was not just the largest export in the South, it was the largest export in the nation at this point. And actually the word millionaire was invented because of cotton plantation owners in the South. Those are going to be our first millionaires ever in the United States. That's the first time we'll ever hear that word, actually, is in the South in the antebellum period. And the South thought that because Great Britain was so reliant on our cotton supply, that if something threatened that, if something jeopardized that relationship and Great Britain couldn't get all the cotton that they wanted, that they would say, hey, we got to fix this right now. Let's get in the war on the South's behalf and help them win, and we can start getting our cotton supply again. Because Great Britain would have a navy strong enough to break through any Union blockade. So the first step to making this happen, to getting Great Britain and France involved in the war, is to making sure